The security windfall from the brief test period was enormous. One intelligence officer remarked that while they cannot use the information they have in a court of law, they now know how to watch and what outside connections they have. The prison at Soledad is now considering transferring 3 subjects to Vacaville, where we have our ongoing implant research. Our technicians have promised that they can do 3 2020 neurochip implants in less than an hour. Soledad officials hope to collect information from the trio to bring a 14-month investigation into drug trafficking by correctional officers to a close. Get a load of this, folks. They have to implant prisoners to figure out what kind of serious correctional officer corruption there is. Isn't that nice? They can't handle it themselves. Amazing. Not that I think they really want to find that out. Essentially, the implants make the unsuspecting prisoner a walking, talking recorder of everyone he comes into contact with. I'll repeat that for anyone that does not understand. Essentially, the implants make the unsuspecting prisoner a walking, talking recorder of everyone he comes into contact with. There are only 5 intelligence officers and the Commissioner of Corrections who actually know the full scope of the implant testing. Okay, so some of the other people in here don't even know what the heck's going on either. But I'm sure by the time this is now, this is quite a few years later after this document came out, so I'm sure more people have knowledge of what's going on. In Massachusetts, the Department of Correction has already entered into high-level discussions about releasing certain offenders into the community with the 2020 neurochip. Our people are not altogether against the idea. However, attorneys for IntelliConnection have advised against implant technology outside strict control settings. Under the present governmental structure, our liability would be enormous. We would have a strong lobby in Congress and in various state legislatures favoring our product. We must proceed with the utmost caution of the 2020 neurochip. If the chip were discovered in use not authorized by law and the procedure tracked it to us, we could not endure the resulting publicity and liability payments. Do you understand this, folks? That means they're doing this now. They are doing this right now. They are taking people. They are putting these types of implants in people, and they are putting them back out on the street. And they are monitoring these victims very carefully, very carefully. They are following these people around because these things work off of cellular radio devices and can be affected by cellular radio devices, so it sends out a signal which can be tracked and followed. These people are in constant surveillance with the types of things in their homes today. It's called remote viewing. There is such a thing called remote viewing, and this is how people are being monitored in their homes, not only victims of implantees, but the general public as well. And we're going to get into that in another session of what we're talking, about this crime and corruption by our federal government and these criminals, okay? So they're worried, and they were worried about these things possibly being discovered, that they were people who were illegally implanted, and that they had to take certain precautions to make sure that if this thing was discovered, it could be a major scandal, and, this company could be sued for millions of dollars. So they wanted to figure out a way to do this. Further, a retired police detective from Charleston, Massachusetts, now at the intelligence unit, has asked us to consider using the 2020 neurochip on hardcore felon suspect in a bank and armed car robbery. He stated Charlestown would never be the same. We'd finally know what was happening before they knew what was happening. That means this thing can read your mind, folks. These chips can literally read your mind and transfer that information back to the perpetrator. And if you go to www.freedomfightersforamerica.com and hit on the illegal human experimentation tab, okay, that's illegal implantation and human experimentation, there are articles that will explain this. We will continue to explore the community uses of the 2020 chip, but our company rep will be attached to all law enforcement operations with an extraction crew that can be on site in 2 hours from anywhere at any time. Okay? That means that if someone discovers this chip, by some chance they get lucky, okay, and they have an MRI or something, because most cases they'll come right to the MRI place when you're trying to get this information, and they will threaten and they will thwart the technicians from allowing you that evidence, okay? So they have an extraction crew that can be on site within 2 hours. That means corrupt members of law enforcement can frame you and get you off the street before that implant is exposed, or they can kill you and make it look like something else before it's exposed and do away with all evidence that way. So anyone who is implanted or anyone who claims that they are implanted, people better understand that, you know, there are ways to check to find out if you are implanted. It's not an easy process, but it is possible, okay? We have an IntelliConnection discussion group which was meeting with the Director of Security at Florence, Colorado's Federal Super Maximum Unit. The initial discussions with the Director have been promising, and we hope to have an R&D unit at this important facility within the next 6 months. Florence, Colorado has replaced Marion, Illinois as a federal prison's ultra-maximum security unit. Legislative and executive branch efforts continue to legalize the implant technology. Okay? This communication was written 10/20/1995. See what it said? It says that we don't care what the law is. We're going to experiment prisoners. We're going to implant them. We're going to implant people in mental institutions and private, and Senator John in 1997, okay, that's when he introduced his bill. This letter is in 1995. So it's right around the same time. And yet today, in 2009, this is still taking place in our country, ladies and gentlemen. To this day, this is still happening to people in this country. It is. And I'm going to read you a couple of stories, factual stories from people this has happened to, okay? Just bear with me one moment here, and I'll read a couple of these pieces of information to you. We're running out of time, but I'll extend this show as much as possible to get you this information, because I think this is exactly what you want to be educated about. This is real. This is not a joke. Okay, I'm going to speak of 2 people. One person's name, his name is Brian Ronge, Rwronge. He is one such person who was in a correctional facility and operated on against his will. Okay. This came out in the City Sun. All right, it's a newspaper. It's outside of New York City. Oh, excuse me, it's I don't know where this is actually. This paper comes from. Bear with me one second. This was in the date of this article is December 1993. Okay, this came out, and this was about what happened to him. Okay, now he had managed to get X-rays. Okay, with implants, showing the implants inside. Okay, this is on the website. You can see this. All right. I'm going to read as much as the article. It reads like a futuristic concept. Invasion of the brain snatchers. Black man's Yucca, the mad scientist in the battle for the last frontier of his own in inner space. Okay, this is how they started. I guess they needed all that hoopla. The reality is present-day horror story in which some medical professionals apparently feel subhuman violation is acceptable and basic human rights are negligible. Brian Ronge, a 33-year-old black Brooklyn resident, originally from Guyana, charges the surgeons at Billy Seton Hospital in Staten Island illegally and without his knowledge implanted paramagnetic computer chips in his head and body in October of 1987. He has filed a suit in Eastern District Court charging the U.S. government with conspiracy to commit murder and invasion of privacy for including him in what he believes to be an experimental